Okay, so we are going to see now as to how the pulmonary respiration is useful for us. Okay, so how do we see? So in pulmonary respiration, this is basically seen in all higher vertebrates, including human beings. So pulmonary respiration happens in all higher vertebrates, which includes amphibians, which includes reptiles, which includes birds, and which also includes mammals. Okay, so since humans are the ones which we are going to study, if we study the pulmonary respiration that happens in humans, that will be more than enough to justify or reason as to why this form is available in amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. So in humans, basically, now the logic should be, see, in earthworms, basically we have seen that skin is the one through which respiration happens. So why can't the same happen with humans? Why do we need a special complex organism of or let's say organ system of nasal cavity and let's say lungs and all? So in humans, what happens is skin is basically thick. If you notice in earthworms, the skin is thin. So we have to go a little back into what should be the characteristic features of our respiratory surface. So the respiratory surface should be thin, moist, it should have a large surface area. So are these things available in the skin? No, because the skin has a thick layer. Why? The skin is made up of epidermis and dermis. Okay, now what happens is epidermis is there to protect water loss by evaporation. So we are evolved creatures and we are terrestrial animals, so we have to conserve water because we are not aquatic. For a different life forms, we have to conserve this water. So to protect the water loss by evaporation, there is an adaptation in terrestrial animals including human beings, and that's the reason the skin is basically thick. Okay, so that's the reason why the skin is basically thick. So this is so our skin basically is impermeable to water. Okay, now we'll come to lungs. Okay, so as we know that pulmonary respiration is basically respiration through lungs. Okay, now in humans we have two lungs. Okay, they fulfill the role of the skin. So what do these lungs contain? They contain units of alveoli. We have seen in lungs we have alveoli, which are basically air sacs. Okay, there the exchange of gases takes place in alveoli. So what is basically an alveoli? So as we have studied that a respiratory system has to be thin. So in alveoli there is a very thin squamous epithelium. This is just one layer. Okay, one layer, so that the exchange of gases can take place in a very fruitful manner. Okay, so the alveoli is basically made up of very thin squamous epithelium, and so that the efficient exchange of gases can take place. Okay, then alveolar surface is generally moist. So we have seen that surfaces need to be moist. Whichever respiratory surfaces we are referring to, they need to be moist. So these alveolar surfaces are generally moist. Each alveoli is supplied with blood vessels which are highly vascular. Okay, so supply of blood vessels makes it vascular. So we have seen that this is another thing that is important. Okay, which is supplied with blood vessels, because in human beings blood is the medium which carries the gases, oxygen which is taken in by the cells and carbon dioxide which is given out. Then respiratory pigment. So hemoglobin is present there. Now let's look at the surface area. So these are basically all qualifiers for a respiratory surface. Now surface area of the skin is approximately 1.5 to 2 square meter, which means that if we peel off our entire skin, this will have an approximate surface area of 1.5 to 2 square meter. If we recall, any respiratory surface area should be large enough so that more and more exchange of gases can take place. Whereas if we actually take out and put it into a sheet form, all the alveoli which are present in the lungs, they will occupy a huge surface area of 50 to 75 square meter. So you see the difference here. The alveoli has a surface area of 50 to 75 square meter, whereas the skin has just a surface area of 1.5 to 2 square meter. So there is a huge difference in the surface area, which qualifies alveoli to be a respiratory surface rather than the skin. Okay. Okay, so here we will discuss about the different parts of the respiratory system. So the first thing that we have is the respiratory system in humans. Okay, this is called the respiratory tract. Very important part. Okay, this will have external layers. This will have external layers. This will have a nasal passage or nasal chambers. This will have a nasal passage or nasal chambers. This will have an internal layer. This will have nasopharynx. This will have larynx or basically the voice box. Then trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. Okay, so all these are basically part of the respiratory tract. Then we have the main structure, which is basically the lungs, which makes our system the pulmonary system. Then we have a muscular membrane-like structure, which is called the diaphragm. So we have the diaphragm, which is the muscular structure. Then we have the respiratory tract. Okay, so if we look into the respiratory tract, what are the basic features out of it? So there is an anterior opening or nose. This is basically the anterior opening, and hence it is also known as the external layer. So if we draw the nose here, this will have a nasal chamber. The lower surface is basically the palate, which you can touch with your tongue. Okay, the lower surface is that of the palate. This is the roof of the buccal cavity. So we have a buccal cavity, and the roof of that is the palate. Okay, each nasal chamber is divided into three parts. Each of these nasal chambers, which we have here, is divided into three parts. The first one is vestibular chamber, which helps in filtration of air, lined with mucus and hair. As we know that there's a lot of microorganisms, bacteria, etc., which can go with each and every time we are inhaling air. So this is basically lined with mucus as well as hair. This traps all those microorganisms. Okay, so filtration of air lined with mucus or hair. Then the respiratory chamber, which is lined with mucus as well as highly vascular, which means there is enough of blood supply out here. So highly vascular means that blood supply is intact. Then we have the olfactory chambers, which are basically giving us the sense of smell. We will see as to how these three work in synchrony with each other. Okay. Okay, so in the earlier slide we saw how the nasal chamber is basically divided into vestibular chamber, which will basically have mucus and hair for the filtration of air. Then we have the respiratory chamber. Now this is something that we need to understand. The respiratory chamber is basically lined with mucus. It has got mucus plus vascular supply. Okay, so basically a rich blood supply is available to the respiratory chamber. And of course we have olfactory chamber. So olfactory chamber is there. Now what happens is that the air that we inhale, it has to be of a specific temperature. Now obviously air will change its temperature as per the surrounding. It might be a hot season or it might be a cold season, so the temperature will accordingly change. Now if the air happens to be too cold around us, this cold air has the possibility of damaging our alveoli. If it goes at the same temperature inside our lungs to the alveoli, it might damage the alveoli. So in order to ensure that the air that reaches the alveoli is of a certain optimum temperature, the respiratory chamber has an important role to play. So as the respiratory chamber is lined with vascular blood supply, vascular system, the blood supply is rich. So blood basically also distributes heat. So blood distributes heat in our body. We all know this, right? Along with distribution of nutrients and gases, it also distributes heat. So this heat is actually taken by the cold air, and it comes to its optimum temperature, and then it passes on to the alveoli. So if the air is too cold, then it is managed by the respiratory tract or the respiratory chamber, which basically has a rich blood supply, and blood is concerned with the distribution of heat. So this makes the air warm. This radiates heat. This basically radiates heat and makes the inhaled air. This makes the inhaled air warm. this makes the inhaled air warm. Now if the air happens to be too hot, then also it might damage the alveoli. If the air happens to be too hot, then also it might damage the alveoli. So how do we take care of this? In this case, if you notice that it secretes mucus. Okay, so now this mucus is basically liquid and it will evaporate. The mucus will evaporate. This mucus, when it evaporates, every liquid when it evaporates, it takes some amount of heat. So this amount of heat will basically be taken by the too hot air. If the air is too hot, the mucus will evaporate, and while evaporating it will take this amount of heat and it will cool the air. So this will produce, every evaporation produces a cooling effect, so this will cool the air. Okay, this will cool the air and finally it will pass on to the alveoli. So this is how the temperature of the air which is inhaled is regulated by the respiratory chamber. Olfactory chamber, as we all know, olfactory, the name itself suggests, it is made up of a lot of olfactory cells which basically gives us the sense of smell. This primarily gives us the sense of smell. We get the sense of smell from this chamber, and this is also known as Cnidarian chamber. This is also known as the Cnidarian chamber. Okay, so this was about the nasal cavity or the nasal chamber, how it is divided and how it helps in the regulation of the air which is being taken in. Okay.